I am Naomi, a 35-year-old office worker. My husband Tom, he is 2 years younger than me. Since he got transferred to the company, I am temporarily living with my parents-in-law. It is only temporarily, for a limited time. Tom wants to stay at his parents' house, but I want to find a proper place to live as soon as possible and get the hell out of my parents-in-law's house. I don't get along with my parents-in-law at all, especially my mother-in-law, Kate. She was sarcastic even before we got married. Well, Naomi, haven't you done the shopping yet? It's past time for the supermarket's bargain time. You can't even shop efficiently at all. It's allowed at my company. I'm on duty during the weekdays. I can't go shopping during the supermarket's bargain time. Kate, I've told you many times, I work during the day, so I can only go shopping after 5 p.m. When I said that to Kate, she said you are a woman who can't have a child. As usual, she blamed me. I and Tom have no children. I didn't check it out in detail at the hospital, so I don't know which one had a problem. I wanted to have a child, but considering how much money Tom was making, I could not go through with the costly infertility treatment. Before we moved in together, Kate's sarcasm bothered me. Even so, it was good while we still lived apart. If we live in the same house day and night, I would be exposed to her sarcasm 24 hours a day. Although my father-in-law, Sam, does not speak directly to me in a sarcastic way, he can be more irritating in a different way than Kate. Sam said he thinks that a woman is an old woman when she is over 30. He treats me like an old woman when I am 35 years old.
Hey, an old lady, pass me the ashtray. What are you doing wearing a skirt? An old lady. Nobody wants to see your legs. An old lady.
If you can call me an old lady, how about you? You're already 60 years old. I am not a timid person either. So when my father-in-law and mother-in-law are rude to me, I would talk back to them every time they were rude to me. And they can say that I am arrogant. It would be a further worse relationship. The atmosphere in the house became tense all the time. I felt that I had reached my limit in living together. But after his new job, Tom had to work on holidays and go on business trips frequently. I was unable to consult with him about moving out.
Naomi, I'm going on another business trip this weekend.
Again? You were on a business trip the other day too. You were going to a lot of business trip at this branch. At his previous workplace, though there was some overtime work, there was almost no holiday work or business trips. He was rarely required to work on holidays or go on business trips.
I can't be helped, can I? Once I change the workplace, it's much of a change.
That may be true, but isn't it too much of a change? Thanks to this, we were supposed to be temporarily living with my parents-in-law. But I can't even find a place to move to. What if we end up living with them forever? I was afraid of that. One day, however, I was trying to get some laundry out of Tom's suitcase. I found a piece of paper in there. It was a receipt for an online reservation on a travel website. I wondered if it was a reservation for a flight and a hotel for a business trip. I looked at it and couldn't believe what I saw. It was a reservation for a hotel room with Disneyland tickets. It was for 2 people. The date was yesterday. That was the day when Tom was on a business trip. Of course, Tom's company does not do business with Disneyland. His company deals in marine products. That's why it isn't related to Disneyland at all. Tom pretended to go on a business trip. He actually went to Disneyland for 2 days. The reservation of accommodation for 2 people means surely he went with a woman. I'm in shock. I heard Tom singing in the bath. It was the theme song that everyone is familiar with. It must have reminded him of Disneyland. I guess he was humming naturally. It seems that he was on a fun and enjoyable affair trip. I was very angry. Then I went into the bathroom and accused Tom. But at the moment, Tom's smartphone rang. I was so angry that I could not make calm decisions. I was pissed off and answered the phone. Hello? I heard a young woman's voice for a moment. And then, immediately the phone was cut off. No way. I was sure. The phone call I just got must be the one who had been to Disneyland with Tom. In other words, the person was the one who Tom was having an affair. When she called Tom, she heard a woman's voice. So she must have hung up the phone in a hurry. I checked his incoming call history. Tom didn't care about security. He had not even set a PIN number. Bingo. Immediately, I could see his smartphone. But when I looked at the contents of the phone, I had a headache. There was a lot of evidence of an affair on his phone. I had no more doubt about it. He had many photos of him and a young woman. All of them were taken on the same day. The days when Tom was on a business trip or working on a holiday. And he even left a photo of them on the bed. I was stunned that he was being so careless. I checked his incoming call history again and found Beth Brown from the social network. I searched for her name and read her message to Tom. I like Tom so much. I can't wait to be your wife. The woman, Beth, seemed to want to marry Tom. While I was shocked, Tom came to me after he took a bath. I feel refreshed. I immediately blamed him. What do you mean you feel refreshed? You seem to be refreshed in all sorts of ways. What? Who is Beth Brown? Huh? He was so surprised to hear the name of his adultery partner, sadly. You lied to me and went out. You were actually traveling with a woman named Beth, right? You lied about all those business trips and working on your days off. That's unacceptable. What the hell? He was so upset. Then I showed him his phone. All the evidence is in this phone. What? You? Did you see my phone without my permission? That could be an invasion of privacy. A man who has no morals and has an affair. What do you mean by an invasion of privacy? That's disgusting. If you don't want people to see this, you should set a PIN number. I made a promise to Tom quite some time ago. That is, you would never cheat on me. If you cheat on me, we'll break up. I told Tom. Of course, I still feel the same way. I can't continue to live in a marriage with a man who would have a relationship with another woman. Let's get a divorce. When I said just that, Tom nodded his head immediately. Oh, yes? That was unexpected. I thought he would resist more. He might prepare for divorce when I found out about the affair. Tomorrow, I'm gonna pick up the divorce papers. You should tell your parents about the divorce. Alright. Tom's agreement was so simple. But I can't and won't change my declaration once I've made it. I have no intention of doing so. This is the end of my married life. I felt loneliness. The next day, I went out in the morning. I went to the city hall to get the divorce papers and to do my stuff. I was late at night when I returned home. My husband and parents-in-law were waiting for me at home.
You finally came home.
I thought about where you were wandering. When Kate saw me, she immediately said in a sarcastic tone, "The fact that Tom is here means that she is already aware of Tom's affair and divorce." I wondered if she should have said she was sorry or something before being sarcastic. Instead of an apology, Kate says something outrageous.
"Well, that's okay. You are finally going to leave. I don't even want to see you anymore. It's just as good you went out."
"What do you mean?" I asked about it to smiling Kate.
"I mean what I just said. I didn't want to see your face. I was sick of it. I finally got Tom to come back here, but you always bothered me. I attempt to argue with you and try to get rid of you. You're not even pretty and always against me. You were not going to get out of here. I finally had to use my trick."
"A trick?" Kate laughed.
"You already know Tom's girlfriend's name, don't you?"
"Yes. Brown, I think." Why would Kate confirm the name of Tom's affair partner?
"Actually, you know, a friend of mine from my cultural school, there's a person named Brown. Her daughter is a very polite and a lovely young lady. She's 25 years old and 10 years younger than you. She's young enough to have lots of kids."
Then Kate told me an unbelievable confession.
"So I made Mrs. Brown's daughter and Tom get together."
"Huh?" I was astonished. I never thought Kate would tell me such a thing. "Seriously? Did you help Tom to have an affair?"
"Oh, that's not appropriate to say it. I just introduced them to each other."
I was shocked by my mother-in-law, who never thought it was a bad thing. How could a mother introduce her son to cheating on his wife? And she was so proud to tell her son's wife about it. What a horrible mother. But I had no choice. Tom is an only child, so I needed his junior. Even you, if you had a child, I was going to admit that you were still his wife. You were always working instead of having children. Besides Kate, Sam nodded his head in agreement. So in other words, Sam knew about Kate's behavior.
Do you understand? It means that you've already been the age of 35, and we don't need any more old women who can't even have children. So, get the hell out of here."
Kate acted like a winner. After a moment of silence, I said, "Well, I understand very well what you guys are thinking. I will live as you want. I will take all my personal belongings with me."
"Do as you want. I'm sure you don't have much to pack anyway. I can give you a ride if you like,"
Kate said to me with a laugh. But I am the one who is really laughing.
"No, I'm fine. Don't worry.
It's already been arranged."
"Huh?"
"'Cause I don't cry out or lose my mind." Kate looked surprised.
"Besides, Kate,
I already knew that you would be helping Tom cheat on me."
"What?"
I laughed at Kate.
"What do you think I have been doing all day? If all I had to do was go to the city hall to pick up the divorce papers, it wouldn't take me this long. I spent the whole day today arranging to my moving, and I went to see Beth Brown."
"What? Did you meet with Beth?" Tom asked me.
"What about it? You cheated on me as you want.
and I have no idea about it. You think I'm not going to complain to her? When I checked your smartphone yesterday, I made sure that I got her phone number. Poor Beth. By the way, when I called her and said, I'm Tom's wife and I'd like to meet you, she was so surprised. I heard you told Beth that you were single. I told her the truth. Tom and my parents-in-law were astonished. They had never thought that I could do such a thing in just one day. Beth found out that you had been unfaithful to me and her, and was grieving terribly. Of course, Mrs. Brown was furious too, to both Tom and Kate. She said she would sue both of you marriage fraud. I felt so sorry for them. I promised to help her. What? Tom was trembling. Of course. The same goes for Kate. I had a lot to be sympathetic to Beth, so I decided not to ask alimony from her. For that, you, Sam, and Kate, I'm going to add on top of that. Alimony? Why do I have to pay alimony? Sam said that in a panic. If it's only Tom, it's none of our business. They had at least anticipated that their son would pay alimony, but they never thought that they would be charged as well, without them getting hurt themselves. They were going to take all the goodies. How can there be such a good deal? Of course there is. Even if it's just compensation for the mental anguish. I think that's a good enough reason, right? While I was laughing, Sam fell silent. Besides, have you forgotten what I do for a living? I am a clerk at a law firm. I consulted with the director's lawyer. I'll have him try to see if that's enough to get the alimony. Of course, today, I've already contacted the lawyer at the law firm where I work. What? Then I heard the sound of the car just arriving at my front door. Ah, here it comes. Hello. Moving service. I headed for the front door with a smile on my face. Thank you for coming so late. Sorry for the sudden request. No problem. There was an available time on the night shift. We were able to get a few things done, too. So we have no problem even at night. Well then, please get to work right away. Oh, please be careful with the fragile things. As soon as I invited them in, many workers entered the house and started to pack up the belongings. Hey! Under my direction, the workers were quickly packing up my belongings. Not only my clothes, books, and computer, but also the appliances in the living room and kitchen. Oh, you guys! You can't take that! That's our stuff! No. They are all my personal belongings that I bought into this house. When we first moved here after Tom's transfer, the appliances in my parents-in-law's house had been used for a long time. I'm a bit of a home appliance fanatic, so I couldn't stand it. So I brought the appliances from my old apartment. Now, Kate has become so accustomed to the newest appliances. She has mistaken them for her own. Robot vacuums and cordless cleaners, a gorgeous microwave oven that can cook a variety of foods, a dishwasher, an expensive hairdryer, and an espresso machine. You are taking away everything. All the expensive stuff. Kate grabbed me, but Tom stopped her. Mom, we don't have a choice, 'cause it's all Naomi's. Apparently, Tom had given up. But Kate was not to give up yet. Once you know how good the newest appliances are, you can't go back to the old ones. If you're not satisfied, why don't you just buy another one? After paying the alimony, of course. I don't think you have the money to buy another expensive appliances after paying alimony. Meanwhile, the workers were carrying the belongings I instructed them to carry into the truck. They bowed to me and got into the truck. Then, please take them to the address where they are to be taken out. I'll be right there. I watched the moving truck drive off. I got into my car. Of course, this car belongs to me.
That truck, where is it going?
Tom asked. What? Of course, I'm taking it to my apartment. My apartment where I lived until you were transferred. The apartment I bought when I was single. I had consigned the sale to a real estate agent when Tom was transferred. But the estimated price was too high and it didn't be sold at all. I still hadn't let it go. The real estate agent keeps saying, let's sell it for a lower price. I am so glad I didn't sell the lower one. I never thought it would come to this. I giggled as I fastened my seatbelt. But maybe I predicted it in my heart.
What? I don't understand,
Tom said. Because I asked for a selling price higher than the market price. I was trying to make it hard to sell. Thus, we could always go back to the apartment. Because of my words, Tom looked so depressed.
You bitch!
Kate was suddenly screaming and rushed toward me, and I had pushed aside. As I was moaning in pain, Kate threw a box at me. But suddenly, she was hit by a black object. Ah! She fell down. Thank you, Ben. I was on a moving truck with my cat, Ben, in my arms. I was carried by the moving truck. I hurried to the new place to escape from my mother-in-law. Why was Ben there? I don't know why Ben was there. But Ben must have had a strong sense of justice. He must have come to rescue me. I'll give Ben cat's food later. After that, Tom and I got divorced. From the law firm I work for, Tom and my parents-in-law were sued for alimony. I asked all trials to the firm. Then my boss accepted the case almost free of charge. I really appreciated it. Even though it's a young novice lawyer in charge of the case, I am relieved to know that my boss supported the case. As for Beth's lawsuit, my boss dealt with it instead of the novice lawyer. He says he will file criminal and civil charges against them because of the malicious nature of the crime. It's been a long time since he filed a criminal case. He says he is looking forward to doing a great challenge for him. After paying the compensation to Beth, as well as the alimony to me, they would have to sell their house to pay the damages. I can't help laughing when I think of the life of extreme poverty and debt that awaits the three of them. I am now single, but compared to life when those parents-in-law and my unfaithful husband, it is like heaven. For a while, I will be with Ben at the apartment. I'd like to enjoy single life freely.
Hospitalized? What are you talking about?
You just don't want to cook dinner, do you? Don't make excuses.
These were the words I was told by my husband and mother-in-law. I was on the way to the hospital because of labor. My mother-in-law called me numerous times. I had no choice but to head back home with pain. My husband and mother-in-law didn't seem to care that I was about to go into labor. I arrived back at my parents-in-law's house, but I collapsed and was carried to the emergency room. Even though both my husband and mother-in-law did not seem concerned about me, I had been patient so far. However, I decided to make a move, thinking that I could no longer be a family member with these people. I am Kate, 33 years old. I work in an office and I'm currently on maternity leave. My husband David and I got married 2 years ago. He is the same age as me and we met at a speed dating party. When I saw him for the first time, he was not my type, but he was very easy to talk to. I was extremely shy. I have been to so many speed dating parties, but I was so nervous that I could not open up in a short time. But I was able to enjoy talking with my husband from the very beginning. I exchanged contact information for the first time that day. We went out for dinner several times after that, and the conversation was as lively as when we first met. The time passed quickly each time. We seemed to share the same taste in food, and we were able to go to the restaurant together, which would have been difficult for me to do it by myself. I couldn't wait for the weekends when I could see my husband. We decided to become a couple after a few times of our meetups. After a year of dating, we decided to get married. In the early days of our marriage, I enjoyed talking to my husband as much as I did when we were dating. I would hurry to finish work and go straight home because I wanted to talk to my husband as soon as possible. Eating dinner and talking about the things that happened during the day was my favorite part of the day. Every day I felt so happy. Although there was one thing I didn't like about being married. It was the dinners at my parents-in-law's house. Every weekend, we go to my parents-in-law's house. I cook dinner and we all have dinner together. My parents-in-law's house is about an hour's drive from ours. I don't like my mother-in-law. She's usually kind, but I don't know when she starts to get angry. Once I make her angry, she would verbally abuse me. When I went to greet them before marriage, everything went peacefully from start to finish. I arrived at their place in the early afternoon, but it was in the evening when I noticed, "You should eat dinner too. I'm going to cook a feast for you." My mother-in-law suddenly said to me. I felt bad for her to cook dinner for me, so I said, "No, it is okay. Please don't bother about me. I'm telling you to eat." She said it in a loud voice. I was so surprised that all I could do was apologize. My husband did not defend me, and while we were waiting for the food, he accused me.
Why did you say no to her earlier? Don't you feel sorry for my mother?
I was so confused because he seems to be a different person from what I knew. It was my father-in-law who resolved the tension.
Where are you from, Kate?
He asked me a question when he saw me puzzled. Later, after the meal was ready, my mother-in-law acted very upset, and my husband seemed to be angry with me too. It was awkward, but my father-in-law asked me a lot of questions and made the situation more comfortable. When I was talking to my father-in-law, my mother-in-law and husband, who had been silent at first, started to join in the conversation. So eventually, we were able to enjoy the meal together. My husband never said anything to me after we left. Although, even after that, my mother-in-law often gets angry and my husband always takes her side. Each time, my father-in-law helped me out.
I'm sorry that she's a short temper. You don't have to worry about it, okay?
He sneaked up on me and said to me, I get nervous every time we go to the weekly dinner. I worry if I make my mother-in-law upset. Even though I'm being careful, my mother-in-law gets angry. When I get home, I'm exhausted. That's why I don't feel like going there. But I put up with it as my husband looks forward to it every week.
For the dinner party, what are you going to cook this time?
I love my husband when we are alone at home, but I don't like him much when we are at my in-laws' house. Then one day, I found out I was pregnant. The morning sickness was so bad that I even took days off from work.
Are you okay? Call me right away if you have any problems.
The morning of the day I missed work, my husband went to a convenience store to buy something I could eat. He said kind words to me and I left for work. It was hard, but my husband was kind, so I felt better. That week, I was not feeling well and could not go to work. When I cooked, the smell made me sick, so I thought it was impossible to have a dinner party on the weekend. I thought my husband would feel the same way, but he said,
Take a good rest today so we can go to the dinner party tomorrow.
In the morning before he left for work. Well, I think I can't make it tomorrow. The smell of the food would make me sick. I refused the dinner party for the first time since we got married. Then, my husband got furious and said,
What are you saying? My mother looks forward to it every week. You promised we would go to announce your pregnancy. Bear it for just one day.
It was the first time I had seen my husband get angry besides at my in-laws. I wondered if the dinner party was that important. We had talked about going there to announce the pregnancy, but that was before the morning sickness got this bad. Sorry. I was too sick to talk back. I apologized, trying to calm my husband's anger. He left the house without saying anything. I was a little emotionally unstable, so I couldn't stop crying in bed after that. That night, he came home from work, and he was the same kind of husband he always was. The next day, we went to my parents-in-law's house. On the hour-long drive, I felt sick many times and had to take breaks. My husband was worried about me, but he never suggested to turn back home. We bought some food and arrived at my in-laws. Welcome! My mother-in-law happily came to greet us at the door. Before cooking dinner, we told them about the pregnancy. Oh my gosh! Congratulations! I want a boy! My mother-in-law was very happy.
Take care of yourself and have a healthy baby.
My father-in-law also said that. My husband was happy to see his parents pleased. I was happy that they were happy too, but I was sick. I could barely make a fake smile. After that, I felt sick so many times while cooking. I sat down to take a break and cooked, wearing a mask to avoid smelling the food. I heard my husband and mother-in-law talking happily, even without looking at me. My father-in-law noticed that I was not feeling well and came to the kitchen.
Morning sickness? You are here to report your pregnancy? I'm sorry to make you cook when you're not feeling well. You don't have to do it next week. Does this supposed to go on this plate?
He said and helped me with the dishes. I was so happy that I almost cried. I wished my husband had said the same words to me. My mother-in-law didn't seem to care at all when my father-in-law helped me. When the meal started, I was too sick that I couldn't eat. Kate, why don't you eat? My mother-in-law asked me. I could only answer, I'm sorry, my morning sickness is so bad. And then, if you don't eat, your baby won't get any nutrients. Eat even if you don't want to. She said with a very scary face. My husband also said,
That's right. Stop making excuses and eat.
I tried to force myself to eat, but after taking a bite, I ran to the bathroom. We are eating! That is gross! I heard my mother-in-law's angry voice outside. I couldn't stop crying. I don't know how long I was in the bathroom. When I finally felt better and came out, my mother-in-law calmed down. My father-in-law must have said something to her. I was grateful to my father-in-law, but disappointed that my husband did not show single concern. After that, no matter how bad my morning sickness was, dinner parties were held every week. I wanted to refuse many times, but I knew my husband would be furious, so I couldn't say anything. One day at one of the dinner parties, we reported that we were having a girl. My mother-in-law said, "Oh, I wanted a boy." She was not angry though.
I know, I'm sorry.
For some reason, my husband apologized to her. I did not understand why he was apologizing. My dissatisfaction with my husband continued to grow. Although he is kind at home, everything started to seem like a lie. However, I had no choice but to put up with it when I thought about the baby I was carrying. Every day, I wished only that this child would be born safely. The baby was growing steadily, and I entered the last months of pregnancy. The baby could be born any time now. I had prepared my belongings so that I could be hospitalized at any time. But the weekly dinner parties were still being held. On the morning of the dinner party, I had contractions. The intervals were still long, so I did not need to go to the hospital yet. But I wasn't sure when I had to. I had contractions. I won't go no matter what you say today. I told my husband in a strong tone. I thought it was more important to have the baby safely than not to make him angry.
Screw you! You're looking fine. I will take you with me even if I have to pull you.
My husband got very angry, as I expected. I won't go no matter what you say today. What if something happened to the baby? For the first time in my marriage, I talked back to my husband. While I was talking back, a contraction came and I crouched down.
Enough! I will go by myself.
My husband said and left. He didn't seem to care about me crouching, but I thought it was better than being forced to go with him. About an hour after he left, I decided to take a cab to the hospital as contraction got frequent. When I just got into the cab, I noticed that my mother-in-law had called me. I looked at my phone and saw dozens of incoming calls. Hello? I gathered all my strength and answered the phone. "Come home quickly and cook dinner now!" She yelled at me as soon as I picked up the phone. "I'm on my way home to the hospital for labor pains," I told her, but there was no way she could understand. "Hospital? What are you talking about?" From the other end of the phone.
It's just a stomachache. You just don't want to make dinner, do you? Don't make excuses.
I heard my husband's voice. "Come straight home now!" The mother-in-law did not stop. "Okay, I understand." I had no choice but to obey. I was so ashamed of myself. I couldn't stop crying from pain, anger, and sadness. The cab driver was puzzled when I told him to change the destination. I managed to arrive at the house and went inside, feeling dizzy. I couldn't stop sweating. As soon as I arrived, my mother-in-law and my husband started yelling at me. But I honestly don't remember what they said. I think I was dazed. I did hear my father-in-law calling for an ambulance. The next thing I knew, I was in the delivery room at the hospital. I was still in a daze because of everything that had happened. I was desperate to deliver my baby. When I heard the baby's voice, I lost all strength in my body. "It's a healthy girl." When the obstetrician told me that and I saw my daughter's face, I cried with relief. After delivering the baby, my father-in-law came into the room. He said,
I'm glad she was born safely. Congratulations, you did a great job.
I said, "You called an ambulance for me, didn't you? Thank you." My husband was not there. When I noticed, it was dark outside and it was midnight already. I was so tired that I fell asleep. When I woke up, my parents were there.
Congratulations, Kate. I'm so relieved. You're looking great.
I was going to call my parents before going on the delivery, but I did not have a chance to do it. My father-in-law contacted my parents. When I saw my parents' face, I cried and told them about my husband and my mother-in-law.
Why didn't you tell me earlier? I cannot forgive them.
My father was angry, and my mother hugged me as she cried. It must have been hard. You endured a lot. Then my father-in-law brought my mother-in-law and my husband. When my father saw my husband's face, he said,
What were you going to do if something happened to my daughter and granddaughter?
My father yelled at him, but my husband said,
No, the baby was born safely. Of course I care about my child, but I also care about my mother. I think it's Kate's fault for not saying it clearly.
David is right. Family dinners are important. I also didn't know Kate was close to having a baby because she didn't say that clearly. My mother-in-law also said something equally strange. My father tried to grab my husband when he heard it, but I told them, I don't want to hear it anymore. I have to take care of my daughter from today. Please leave. My mother-in-law and my husband shrugged their shoulders and left the room.
I'm truly sorry. I will talk to both of them well.
My father-in-law said and left the hospital room. After that, while taking care of my daughter, I talked with my parents about the future. It seems I had been brainwashed by their constant yelling. When I saw the face of my newborn daughter, I thought I had to be strong. I had to protect her no matter what. My mother visited me every day and stayed with me all day, so I felt relaxed. Then the day came that I was discharged from the hospital. I headed with my parents to the house where my husband was waiting. I asked my father-in-law to bring my mother-in-law too. When we arrived at home, I asked my mother to watch my daughter in a separate room.
Welcome back, Kate. Kate, I am so sorry. I was wrong. Let's three of us live together as a family from now on.
My husband solemnly apologized, probably because my father-in-law told him to. The three of us, you mean no more dinner parties? I asked.
Of course, if you don't want to go, we won't go.
He replied. I could see my mother-in-law's face turning red after hearing my husband's words. She must be angry. I could tell because I have seen her angry face so many times. She must have hated the fact that my husband was not on her side. I laughed. Then I took the divorce papers out of my bag. I wish I could hear those words before the delivery. The dinner parties are more important than my morning sickness and labor pains, right? Why don't you and your mother continue them? Your mother, whom you love so much, is looking very angry. I will live with my daughter alone. Please don't get involved with me again for the rest of my life. I told my husband with a smile.
I said I was sorry. She's my daughter too.
Yes, he said sorry, so forgive him. David is compromising with you. My husband and mother-in-law said vigorously. Oh, that's what you really think. Did you think that if you apologize, things will go back the way they were before? Don't underestimate me. It can be fixed. I'm moving out today. Why don't you two just support each other and live together? Then my father-in-law also handed the divorce papers to my mother-in-law.
That's it. You two live together without me. I can't believe what you did to Kate, even though you have experienced David's birth. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't come home and called the ambulance.
The day my father-in-law was working on his day off and had gone to work in the morning, and when he returned home in the afternoon, my husband and mother-in-law were yelling at me as I was crouching. If my father-in-law had not come home, I don't know if I would have been able to give birth safely. He felt he could not live with them anymore after seeing them show no remorse even after the birth. Divorce? What are you talking about?
I can't live with you guys anymore. The same goes for Kate. You two can't even understand that, can you? You two are helpless.
My husband and mother-in-law were speechless when my father-in-law said that. Then my father came in with cardboard boxes. He rented a truck. I packed my belongings with my father and my father-in-law and carried them to the truck. My husband and mother-in-law were saying something, but I ignored them. After I finished carrying all of my stuff out, I said to my husband, "Don't you write divorce papers? In that case, my lawyer will contact you." I left the house with my parents, my daughter, and my father-in-law. I thanked my father-in-law, and we headed back to my parents' house. Later, the divorce was successfully finalized through the lawyer. I was able to get plenty of alimony. My father-in-law also got divorced and sold his house. My father-in-law told me that my mother-in-law and my husband, who were in such good relations, were now blaming each other and fighting every day. He said,
It would be impossible for them to live together.
"My mother-in-law has been a housewife since she got married, so she has almost no work experience. She has no choice but to rely on her son. My husband had very little savings, so after paying alimony, he barely has any money left. He's not sure if he can pay the rent because he needs to pay child support every month. They tried to rely on my father-in-law, so my father-in-law changed his cell phone number so they would not contact him. I raised my daughter at my parents' house. My father-in-law and I still keep in touch. Once a month, he comes to visit our house with a gift for my daughter. My parents also love my daughter very much and spoil her as much as they can. My daughter's smile and happiness make me happy.